The slap echoed through the ballroom, a stinging crack that silenced 200 guests. And in that moment, as my cheek burned and my diamond earring skittered across the floor, I decided my silence was over. Have you ever had a moment where you realized the people who were supposed to love you most saw you as a stranger? Share your story in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe to see what happens next. My name is Sloane Mercer, and I am 32 years old. I built my whole life by myself. Nobody gave me money. Nobody handed me help. I didn't have rich parents or a family fund. What I had was hard work. I worked 18 hours a day sometimes. I kept trying when I was tired, hungry, and scared. Now I have my own company office with a big window that looks out over the tall buildings in downtown San Francisco. When I look outside, I see the bright city lights, and I remember that I earned this view all by myself. But when my parents talk about me, they don't see that. They call me our other daughter. They never even use my name. My little sister, Isla, is the one they talk about all the time. She is the golden child. Everyone loves Isla. She has shiny brown hair, cute dimples, and a big smile. She also has a nice fiancé, a beautiful ring, and a wedding list that is so long it could be a book. While Isla was planning her perfect wedding, I was still working hard every single day. I always tried to do my best, even when people said mean things like, "Sloane is too bossy," or "Sloane only cares about work." I learned how to keep smiling even when I was sad. I learned how to nod politely when my family ignored me. I learned how to pay for things quietly, like family trips or special gifts, even when no one said thank you. But what they did at Isla's wedding was worse than all of that. That night, in front of 200 people under shiny chandeliers and fancy lights, my mother slapped me across the face. Everyone saw it. The music stopped for a moment. People stared. I felt the burn on my cheek and the sting in my heart. And right then, I decided something important. I would not forgive them again. I would choose revenge instead of silence. It all began like many bad things do with an email. The subject line said, "Final headcount for Isla Monroe's big day." There was no "Hi Sloane." No, thank you for helping. Just a long spreadsheet with names and a short note from my mom, Vivian, thanking everyone who gave money to help make the wedding special. Everyone except me. 3 months before that, my dad, Warren, had called me. He said he was worried because the wedding venue was too expensive. I wanted to help, so I sent $50,000 to my parents. They said they would pay me back, but I already knew they wouldn't. I didn't do it for the money. I did it because I still wanted to belong. I still hoped they would see me just once as a part of the family. But when I opened that email, my name wasn't mentioned anywhere. Instead, I saw that I was sitting at table 9 marked mixed guests. That meant I would sit with people I didn't know, far away from family. There was no note about the business favors I had done for them, no word about how I used my hotel points to make their honeymoon suite nicer. Nothing. Just silence. I looked at my busy work calendar. There were meetings, calls with investors in Tokyo, and a big product launch in Singapore next month. My time was very expensive, but still I clicked yes to the wedding RSVP. At lunch, my best friend Juno almost dropped her fork when I told her. "Seriously," she said, "you're going to that wedding just to get ignored again?" "I want to support Isla," I said softly. Juno raised one eyebrow. I sighed. "Okay, maybe I just want to feel like I exist in their world for once." Juno's face softened. "Sloane," she said kindly, "you built your own world." I smiled because she was right. But deep inside I still wanted something small, maybe a thank you or a hug or just to be seen. That didn't make me weak. It made me human. That night, I stood by my big glass window in my penthouse. The city lights sparkled below me. Every piece of furniture, every plant, every painting in my home was something I had chosen and paid for myself. Yet, as the wedding day came closer, I felt a strange pull inside my chest, a little thread of hope that maybe, just maybe, my family would treat me differently this time. Maybe they'll finally see me, I whispered to my reflection. But when I looked again at that email with Isla's huge smiling picture filling half the screen, my stomach twisted. Something told me it wouldn't be different. When I arrived at the Fairmont Hotel that Saturday morning, the place looked like a fairy tale. I stepped out of my car wearing a navy blue silk dress. It fit me perfectly and made me feel strong. My mother didn't say hello. She looked me up and down and said, "That dress makes you look like you're going to a business meeting, not your sister's wedding." I forced a smile. "Good morning to you too, Mom." Across the room, I saw Isla sitting with her bridesmaids. She was laughing, taking selfies, and looking like the star of a movie. When she saw me, she smiled a little, then turned away. The ballroom was filled with white roses, gold ribbons, and shining lights. It looked beautiful. It also smelled like money that partly came from me. My dad walked by and said, "Family comes first. You'll understand that when you have your own family someday. If you ever settle down." I stayed quiet. Then Maribel Kane walked over with a glass of champagne. "So how's your little apartment, dear? Must be cozy." "It's a penthouse," I said, keeping my voice calm. She laughed like I was joking. Then Isla glided over, glowing and cheerful. "Sloane said she bought a Tesla last year," she told the group. "Can you imagine?" "I did buy a Tesla," I said with a polite smile. "It's parked outside." They all laughed again, not meanly but like they didn't believe me. I could have told them that I'd been in Architectural Digest last month, that I had led one of the biggest business expansions in Asia, that I made more money than both my parents. But I didn't. Because I'd learned something. People who don't want to understand you will never believe the truth anyway. So instead, I straightened one of the flower decorations on the table and told myself, I'm here for Isla. Just Isla. Later, while I was pretending to check the flowers again, I heard my father whisper something to my mother. After the toast, he said quietly, "We'll make the announcement about the penthouse." And my mother said, "She won't say no. Not in front of everyone." I smiled tightly, but inside I thought, try me. When I walked back into the ballroom that afternoon, everything was shining. The air smelled like roses and perfume. Strings of warm golden lights hung across the ceiling. A giant flower sign said C+T forever, for Isla and Monroe. Waiters in black uniforms hurried around, setting down glasses and candles. It was perfect, too perfect. Isla's dream came true. My mom came up to me again, her smile tight and fake. "You're late," she said. "It's only 10:05, I said, checking my phone. "The ceremony is at 3. Isla wanted some family pictures earlier," Mom said. "We thought you might try harder today." I bit my tongue. The last time Isla had asked for family photos, they had cropped me out of the final picture before putting it online. Trying harder was never the problem. "I'll be back in 10 minutes, I said. "Good," Mom replied, then looked at my purse. "Maybe wear something more feminine next time. You look like a stockbroker." She turned and walked away before I could speak. I took the long way around the ballroom, just to breathe. As I walked, I heard people whispering. "She's the one who lives in the city, right? The single one. Still working full-time at her age? Poor Vivian. At least Isla's settling down." Each word felt like a paper cut. Small but sharp. Then I saw Isla again. She was glowing, dressed in white silk, her hair shining under the lights. Her bridesmaids looked like they came straight from a magazine. She saw me and called out loudly, "Sloane, you made it." She ran over and hugged me like we were best friends. "I love that dress," she said sweetly. "So strong, so businesslike." "That's one way to put it," I said. She giggled. "I told Mom you'd wear something like that," she said. "At least it'll match her attitude." Her friends laughed. I smiled back, but only with my mouth, not my heart. "You look beautiful," I said. "I know," Chloe answered, smiling proudly. Then she leaned close and whispered in my ear. "Today's going to be perfect, Sloane. I can feel it." I didn't say anything. I just nodded, even though I wasn't sure she was right. I went back to the big wedding lounge. There were lots of flowers, gold chairs, and sparkly lights everywhere. I looked for my name on the big white seating chart. It was still there, written in fancy letters, table 9. At my table, I was sitting between my great Maribel Kane, who had been divorced twice, and one of Monroe's friends. That friend always called himself an entrepreneur online, but really, he just sold expensive vitamins on Instagram. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my best friend Juno. "Still alive?" I took a photo of the seating chart and sent it to her. "Barely. This is like a science project about mean people being polite." Juno replied with a skull emoji skull and another message. "Call me if they start talking weird or creepy." At the front of the ballroom, the head table looked like something out of a movie. Chloe's name was stitched in shiny gold on the back of a white velvet chair. Her fiancé Monroe's chair matched, with golden trim. My mom and dad's chairs had ribbons. Mom said "Proud Mom," and Dad said "Father of the Bride." Mine? Nothing. No ribbon. No name. No roll. Just like always. Behind me, I heard laughter. I turned around and saw Chloe showing off her wedding presents. She was glowing as she lifted a shiny new coffee machine from its box. Next to it was a pair of designer suitcases and a painting of her and Monroe smiling on a beach. "They said we might get the penthouse," she said loudly, not even trying to whisper. My stomach felt tight. So she wasn't just joking about that. She really thought she was getting to my home. Someone chuckled behind me. Well, a voice said, Sloane doesn't have a husband or kids. What does she need all that space for? I turned slowly. It was Gideon and Maribel Kane, sipping wine like they were already bored with me. I smiled politely, but my fingers curled into fists inside my clutch purse. I walked to the far edge of the ballroom, near a tall glass window. The city glittered outside, tall buildings, tiny lights, cars moving below like toys. Somewhere out there was my penthouse, 45 floors above the noise. It was clean, quiet, and mine. Not a gift, not a favor. A place I had worked hard for. My own space. And yet they were planning to take it from me, with a toast and a smile. I smiled too, but inside I whispered, try me. The ballroom shone gold as the party reached its prettiest moment. Candles twinkled on the tables. The band played a soft jazz version of Can't Help Falling in Love. Waiters moved through the crowd with trays of champagne and tiny snacks that looked too perfect to eat. It was like a page from a fancy wedding magazine, beautiful but not real. I stood near the dessert table, watching everything like I was just a guest at someone else's life. And really, that's what I was. Chloe twirled on the dance floor, her lace dress sparkling under the lights. Monroe held her hand, spinning her around and smiling like the happiest man alive. The crowd adored them, the golden couple, the ones who always got everything right. My dad, Warren, was 3 glasses of wine deep, talking loudly about golf and family values to Monroe's parents. My mom, Vivian, hovered beside him, smiling and greeting guests like a politician on TV. Then it happened. Dad stood up from his seat at the head table. He tapped his fork against a champagne glass. The clinking sound echoed through the room until everyone stopped talking. The band went quiet. I froze. Please don't do it, I thought. Not here. Not now. But of course he did. Ladies and gentlemen, Dad said loudly into the microphone. If I could have your attention for just a moment. He looked around the room like a king about to make a grand speech. Carol and I, he said, he always called Mom by her first name when giving speeches to sound formal, are so overjoyed today to see our little girl begin her new life with such a wonderful man. Applause filled the room. Chloe dabbed at the corner of her eye like she was in a romantic movie. Dad continued. We wanted to give Chloe and Monroe something special. Something meaningful. Something that says we believe in their future together. My heart dropped into my stomach. No, no, no. Dad smiled wider. And so we are thrilled to announce that Chloe and Monroe will be moving into Sloane's penthouse as their wedding gift. The room gasped. Then cheers and clapping erupted like fireworks. Chloe covered her mouth in fake surprise. Oh my gosh, she said, perfectly sweet. Sloane, are you serious? Every eye turned toward me. My hand tightened around my glass. My pulse thundered in my ears. She knew. That surprise had been rehearsed. Dad smiled at me like I was supposed to play along. Sloane, he said, motioning for me to come forward. I stood slowly. My heels clicked on the marble floor. But I didn't go to the microphone. I just stood tall and spoke clearly. I'm sorry, I said. What was that? Dad blinked, confused. Your penthouse, sweetheart. As a gift for Chloe and Monroe. I smiled, small and sharp. That wasn't discussed with me. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. People whispered. Mom leaned toward the mic. Don't be selfish, Sloane. It's your sister's big day. There's nothing selfish about having boundaries, I said calmly. And there's nothing kind about surprises like this. More whispers filled the air. Cameras flashed. Chloe stepped closer, eyes glistening. Sloane, she said softly, I just thought you loved me enough to help us start our life. I looked straight at her. Your happiness shouldn't depend on taking what doesn't belong to you. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone even booed. Family means sharing. Maribel Kane shouted. No, I said. Family means respect. This is not sharing. This is pressure dressed up as kindness. That's when Mom stood up. Her face was red, her eyes wild. You will not embarrass us like this, she said angrily. I'm not the one giving away someone else's home as a party favor, I replied. And then she did it. She walked across the room and slapped me hard across the face. The sound echoed like a crack of thunder. My diamond earring flew off and skidded across the marble floor, sparkling under the chandelier. The whole room froze. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't touch my cheek. I walked slowly to where the earring had landed, bent down, picked it up, and calmly put it back in my ear. Then I looked straight at my mother, the woman who raised me, who had just hit me in front of everyone, and said one word. No. Then I turned and walked out of the ballroom. Behind me, 200 shocked faces stared. My family was silent. Broken. My phone buzzed in my clutch purse. A message from Elias Kwan. Saw the live stream. On standby. Tell your father the board meets in 24 hours. The elevator doors closed behind me, sealing away the noise and whispers. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just stared at my reflection in the shiny metal wall. My cheek was red. My diamond earrings sparkled. My eyes were cold and strong. I looked like I was in control. But inside I was on fire. My phone buzzed again. Elias Kwan. Your call. Say the word. I typed one word. Execute. The reply came quickly. Understood. Mobilizing is legal. 20 minutes later, I stepped into my penthouse. It was silent. Peaceful. No yelling. No music. Just quiet. I poured a glass of water, pressed an ice pack against my cheek, and looked out the window. The city glittered below like 1,000 tiny stars. Down there, life kept moving. But up here, something new was beginning. My phone buzzed again. It was Juno. Babe, the slap is viral. 3,000 views already. Wedding hashtags are blowing up. I wasn't surprised. Someone had streamed the whole thing live. Probably Monroe's brother, who had been filming the cake earlier. Elias had seen it. Now he was coming. I quanned into jeans and a soft sweater, tied my hair back and waited. Waited for whatever came next. About 45 minutes later, the buzzer in the hotel lobby rang. That sound meant he had arrived. My phone lit up with a message. Elias entering now. I didn't have to imagine the scene. I could see it in my mind. Elias Kwan, my boss, my teacher, and my dad's secret business partner, was walking into the big ballroom. He wore a perfect, shiny black suit that probably cost $10,000. Beside him were 2 lawyers, each holding a briefcase full of papers and agreements. My dad wouldn't know who he was right away. For months, my dad had tried to meet a man called Mr. Chung from Qing Capital. He never realized that the man who owned 40% of his company was the same Elias who worked with me every day. But the moment Elias said my name out loud, my dad would finally understand. My phone started ringing. Elias, I said, keeping my voice calm. You're on speaker, he replied. His voice was strong. The kind of voice that makes everyone else stop talking. I'm here with your parents and all their guests, he said. In the background, I could hear whispers, the soft sound of glasses clinking, and the quiet surprise of a crowd. Then Elias said clearly, Warren, let me make something clear. Sloan Mercer is not some angry child. She is the vice president of global development at Kwan. She led our company's work in Asia, made the Singapore deal, and built the Tokyo office from the ground up. The penthouse you tried to take from her is hers. It's part of her job reward. My father's voice came through weak and shaking. That's not possible, he said. The video says otherwise, Elias answered. We have proof you tried to threaten and even hurt her. Clause 15.3 in your company papers says bad or shameful behavior can cause an emergency review of leadership. My mom shouted, What are you talking about? Page 47, Elias said calmly. You signed it 5 years ago. The room grew quiet. I could hear the sound of papers moving and people shifting. Mr. Chung, my dad said, desperate now. This is a family matter. We can settle it privately. The moment you made it public, Elias replied, it became my business. Then my sister, Chloe, spoke up, her voice high and full of tears. This is supposed to be my wedding. Elias didn't flinch. It still is, he said. But it's also now an example of what happens when people mix business with bad behavior. Camille, would you like to press charges? I took a deep breath, my hand resting on the cold window glass. No, I said softly. Not yet. Then here's what will happen, Elias said. You have 48 hours to make a public apology to Sloan, in writing, on video, and signed. You will admit that she earned her success and owns her home. If you try to hurt her again, we will go to court, and the board will review your positions. My mother screamed something I couldn't understand. My dad's voice broke as he said, Please don't do this. Don't destroy our family. I'm not destroying anything, I said, calm and steady. I'm protecting myself, something you never did for me. Elias's voice came back, firm and final. 48 hours. The clock starts now. Then the call ended. I stood by the window, staring out at the city lights. Down below, everything they had built, their company, their image, their lies, was beginning to crumble. Elias sent another message. Tell your father the board meets in 24 hours. The fallout came fast. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was full of missed calls, texts, and news alerts. The video from the wedding had gone from 3,000 views to 200,000 overnight. Someone had even made a TikTok clip of the moment my mother slapped me, added dramatic music, and wrote the caption, "When mom wants your penthouse more than your love." It had 2 million likes. People online were laughing, but not at me. They were laughing at them. The public had chosen sides, and for once they were on mine. Every comment and post said the same thing. She stood her ground. She didn't back down. In my email inbox were messages from 3 board members at Quan Capital. All of them were supportive. One even wrote, "I wish I had your calmness when my uncle tried to sell my condo at a family event." By midday, my father's company had already lost 2 big contracts. By lunch, it was 6. The huge expansion plan he had been working on for years was cancelled. And Chloe's perfect wedding was falling apart before her eyes. My friend Juno sent me screenshots of Monroe's family group chat. Monroe's parents were horrified. His mom had written, "We need to think carefully about what kind of family we're marrying into." She even said your mom reminds her of her ex-husband. Juno said over FaceTime, laughing through a bite of her bagel. "She's not wrong," I said, scrolling through the news. Monroe's dad had already canceled the honeymoon. Not postponed, but canceled completely. I almost felt sorry for Chloe. Almost. Then a text from her popped up on my phone. "For words, you ruined my life." I didn't answer. Then another text arrived. "They're making us go to counseling before the wedding. I hope you're happy." I typed, deleted, and finally sent. "You're lucky they care enough to try." She didn't reply. That evening, a courier came to my building with an envelope from Quan Capital. Inside was a letter printed on thick, fancy paper. It was an offer. A promotion to Senior Vice President of Global Strategy. A 40% raise. More travel, more power, more freedom. At the bottom, Elias had written a note in blue ink. "You didn't just protect yourself, Sloan. You showed real leadership under pressure. That's what we believe in. Welcome to the top floor." I stood there for a long moment, holding the letter. Then I walked to my kitchen, took out a bottle of wine I'd been saving, poured a glass, and toasted to peace, to silence, to the version of myself that no longer needed to explain or prove anything. Later that night, Juno came over. We sat together on my balcony, wrapped in blankets, the city lights shining below us like stars. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You were a wall." "I was scared," I admitted. "You still stood," she said. We clinked our glasses. "Oh, check your email," she added suddenly. "You're on the short list for Forbes 40 Under 40. The story's going around everywhere." I blinked. "You're kidding." "Not even a little," she grinned. "People love that you stayed calm. VP gets slapped and responds with ice and strategy. It's trending." I laughed softly. "That's so messed up." "Yeah," she agreed. "But you earned this." I looked around my penthouse, my home, the one thing they tried to take from me, not out of love but out of control. They lost not because I fought dirty, but because I stopped playing their game. They tried to take my peace, so I gave them silence instead. 6 months later, the city still looked the same. Mornings in San Francisco had a quiet kind of beauty. Gray skies slowly turning golden as sunlight touched the tall glass towers. From my window, I could see everything. The Bay Bridge stretching into fog, cars moving below, and the skyline that once made me feel small. Now it felt like mine. I sipped my coffee, barefoot on the warm wooden floor. The air was still and calm. I hadn't spoken to my parents since the apology went live. 47 hours after Elias's deadline, my father had posted a formal apology. "We apologize to our daughter, Sloan Mercer, for our actions. We recognize her success and her right to her home. This matter is now closed." It was cold, stiff, and written by a lawyer, but at least it was something. My mother, of course, refused. She posted a long message on Facebook accusing me of being cold and corporate poisoned. The internet reacted quickly. People commented things like, "This is why therapy exists," and "Exhibit A in emotional manipulation." Soon after, she faded from the internet completely. Chloe's marriage didn't last. Counseling had brought out truths she didn't want to face, her need to control, her belief that love came with conditions. Monroe left, and his family didn't look back. She texted me once, "You got what you wanted." I lost everything. I didn't reply. I hadn't wanted her to lose. I just wanted them to stop taking from me like it didn't matter. A week later, I sent her a wedding gift, 6 months of paid family therapy, with a short note. She never answered. But healing isn't always about making peace with others. Sometimes it's about knowing yourself and what you will no longer allow. That morning, Juno called while I was packing for my flight to Tokyo. Are you packed? She asked. Almost, I said, looking at a pair of high heels I'd probably never wear. Bring them, she joked. You'll need something to throw if the meeting goes bad. I laughed. You're the worst coach ever. I'm the only one who tells you when your eyeliner's crooked, she said. After we hung up, I opened the drawer in my bookshelf, the one where I kept things that mattered. Not company papers or money documents, but reminders of who I had become. Inside was a framed photo of my penthouse deed, paid in full. Under it lay the Forbes 40 Under 40 magazine spread that had come out 2 months earlier. I'd made the cover, not for the slap or the family drama, but for building one of the fastest-growing international portfolios in the industry. The article didn't mention my parents, Chloe, or the wedding. It was just me, my work, and my results. It felt honest. Juno once told me, the best revenge isn't power or money. It's peaceful. Now I finally understood. My penthouse, with its glass walls, wooden floors, and quiet air, wasn't just a home. It was proof that I could be the daughter they ignored, the sister they underestimated, and still build something untouchable. That I could choose myself, walk away, and stay strong. That family doesn't get to hurt you just because you share blood. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. It was Elias. Flight confirmed. The car picks you up at 6. Tokyo's waiting. I looked one last time out the window at the shining city, then grabbed my suitcase. And as I turned away, I whispered the words I had waited 30 years to believe. I was never theirs to break. And now they can't touch me at all.